All right, what's good, YouTube? We're back again with another tutorial. Last week we did an advanced melodic tutorial or an advanced melodic hookup, so you guys got to see me make a beat from start to finish. Now I'm just going to kind of go over and explain those the concepts and the things that I went through while making that beat. So I've got that same beat pulled up, and here I'm going to go through each sound and kind of go over everything with you. So if you already haven't, like, share, comment, subscribe. But like this video, comment what you guys think about it and what you guys want to see more of in the future. And we'll go from there. So let's go ahead and hop into FL Studio and kind of break this beat down. All right, so here we are in FL Studio. Let's start off with the, let's switch to the pattern mode. So we're in FL Studio. I added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 sounds. Out of those 14, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them are all melodies. So with these melodic the melodic beats, and if you want to get advanced with them, the best way to kind of get advanced is to make simple melodies that sound very different. And then I like to do, well, people call it call and response, and then do a lot of call and response type of melody. So like basically what you'd want to do is have counter melodies that interact with the first melody or a different melody or something of that nature. But let's go ahead and see what this first one sounds like. This is the first sound that I've got. Now, when you have like, when you're trying to make these advanced melodic melodies, and any melodic melody in general, you want to use kind of like softer sounds, kind of light sounds. The reason being is because they don't clash as much with like very hard sounds, or very like set like a synth or keys or things of that nature, or arps. Sometimes they're a little bit too aggressive of a sound. So when you have multiple layers of different melodic melodies, they kind of can get mixed and jumbled up, unless they sound like, you know, pretty vastly different as far as like the sound. You got something that's like a really soft sound, and then you got something that's more of an extreme sound, or something that's more of like a moving sound like an arp, and then other sounds that are, you know, very stationary, I guess. But that's kind of one way to think about it, is to go with a less complex sound but use more of them. So you want something that's not super crazy sounding, like a whole bunch of arps and whatnot. You can do that, but it just kind of sounds all jumbled up after a while. You want to find light sounds, something that is just filler sounds, basically, like filler VST, or not filler VSTs, but filler sounds that you want to pick from those VSTs. So after you've gotten something that's like a good background noise, or a good ambient type of sound, something that's very soft, something that's not too loud and aggressive or very out there, you want to go ahead and add like a main melody. So this is the main melody that I came up with, and again, as you can see, it's very simple, and it's got the call and response, because you've got, you know, the melody here, it plays, and then there's a gap here, then the melody plays again, and then another gap here. And if you go back and look at my previous one, where the gaps are, they're filled in here on this one, see? And so where these play, there's emptiness there so that you can hear it. So the melodies will be playing all at one time, but it sounds like one long consistent melody with different sounds but what's really going on is multiple sounds layered on top of each other that fit in between where sound is not, essentially. And it makes it feel full and sound full with different sounds without being full, is basically the concept. And then when you remove sounds, like during your verses or your bridges and whatnot, it's very evident at that point that you've removed a sound and that the melody has changed. So let's go ahead and listen to this second melody. Like I said, very ambient, very light type of sounds, nothing that's too loud and aggressive or something that's too punchy, basically. And like I said, the call and response thing is happening there. Then we're going to go to our third sound. Third sound is kind of like a filler sound, something that kind of you add into there to change up the variation of the beat, so that way, like when you're going through your hook or your verse or something, there's some type of change there. So That's what you want to do with the other melodies, but still do the call and response. So here's that third melody that we've got. And if you notice, what I've done is also done kind of like a call and response when it comes to the end of a melody. So like, as you can see, I finished off this melody with a key here, but when it reloops, it starts off up here. So it kind of gives it a bounce because it's going from one lower key to a higher key. So it's still kind of like that call and response. As you can see, there's some emptiness in between the melodies and whatnot. And that, like I said, that's to fill in the gaps, because this one is empty and void of sound, while this one is playing during all of that. You see what I mean? So it's going to be empty and not a whole lot going on. And if you also notice on this third sound, it's a lot more present than the previous sounds. The two previous sounds are very light, very soft, and this one is more aggressive and snappy and like has an actual sound to it. And that's kind of what you want to do. You want to have some light-hearted sounds, some simple melodies with hard sounds, I guess is what you'd want to call them, rather than soft sounds. Something so to in comparison, let's say you're using something like keys, piano, and bells for your hard sounds, right? And then you'd want to use things like maybe some arps, pads, or synths, depending on the style of the synth, as your background or your melody, to create those soft sounds. So then we're going to move on to the fourth sound. Fourth sound, the way that I always do the fourth sound is I change I guess it would be the timing. I'm not really sure what it would be, but as you can see, I don't have anything in the beginning here of any of these right here. So it's like the melody is empty, and it takes it at a little second for it to play. So you'll hear the pause, then you hear it play, then you hear it pause, then you hear it play, then you hear it pause, then you hear it play. And if you go back and look at my previous ones, you see that there's something playing when it's not playing, and that's how you want it. And this will give it a little bit different of a sound, because these sounds will, once you drop that pattern into the playlist, it'll kick in at a different time. It doesn't start right on point at bar 1 like the other melodies do. This starts at like bar 2, and so on from there. And now with this sound, this one I try to pick an in-between sound, something that sounds very soft and light-hearted, but at the same time still is a little bit hard of a sound, so that you can hear it and it has more presence to it. So it's not as aggressive and hard sounding as the keys, but it's not as soft and light as the melody in the background, right? So it's a good in-between. So you've got two soft melodies, one hard melody, an in-between melody, and then to finish it all off, to kind of add some icing on the cake, to give it a little bit of a different sound, is I add an arp. Arps are moving sounds. They're arpeggiators, so they literally move. So like as long as you're pressing and holding a note, it's going to continue to make a sound, but that sound will have movement. So rather than how pads and synths work, where you hit that key, you hold it, and it still plays for a long time, it's going to be like an arp. When you hit that key and hold it, it plays for a long time, but it's moving at the same time. So I basically call them wiggly sounds. They literally sound wiggly. They move. They're not still, So this is that sound that you're going to hear in that sound, like I mentioned. And this is what we got. All right. So as I said, it moves. It's like a wiggly sound. It doesn't stay stationary. So if you combine that with, you got this two soft sounds, you got a hard sound that's kind of aggressive, then an in-between sound, and then something that's like a moving sound. They're all different like sound spectrums. They're not all the same. Like you wouldn't want to have arp, 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 and it'd be four, different arps at the same time. Now you can make beats like that, and that's perfectly fine if it works for you. If you can make that style, but if you want to sound a little bit different and have some more depth to your beats, I suggest you start implementing mixing sounds. So don't just strictly rely on pianos for all 4 or 5 of your melodies. Don't strictly rely on arps. Don't strictly rely on pads. If it's part of your style or something that you're going for, cool. But incorporating the different types of sounds and these different sound textures inside of a beat gives you one variation Two, it's going to, you know, stretch your creative rubber band, the creative rubber band in your mind, and kind of make you a little bit better of a producer. And then three, on top of all of that, is just going to make the beat sound better. It's going to have different layers, different sounds to those to that beat that can change the style, change the cadence, change the flow of what an artist would do, and give it some variation without having to really do anything too crazy. You're just picking a different type of sound, right? So after you got all your melodies and everything in there, you're just adding your typical instrument. So however you want to go about it at that point, it's totally up to you. How you do your hi-hats, clap, snares, and all that combination of stuff is all dependent on how you want it to sound and how you want it to come out. So let's go ahead and go through these instruments. This is for the first time in a while that I've done a hi-hat pattern that wasn't a two-step all the way through with a bunch of rolls. All right, got your snare, or clap, I'm sorry. And with the melodic beats, you want to add different types of sounds than what you typically would. If you're known to be like the trap producer, if you want to sound more melodic, you could still make those same type of melodies as long as they're melodic type of melodies, something similar to this, and just slightly change up your instruments. Like even if it's just changing your snare that you typically use to a clap or a snap, and then using the snares like that I add for like these two snares here, 2 and 3. You may change those up. You may change how you have your snare rolls. Just slight variations like that. So like in this beat, I added the Chief Keef triangle. I don't typically add that in my beats, but adding these different small little changes in instruments can make, and in combination with having the melodic sound, can make your beat sound totally different. So if you're used to doing Zaytoven type beats, for example, and you go and say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna make something melodic. You make a melodic type of beat, but you still have the same structure of like how you do your Zaytoven 808s and instruments and everything, is going to sound totally different. The same thing is if you do the melodic, you know, style that how I'm showing you guys here, and you're doing the instrument styles of how I have things set up, it's going to sound totally different. And you could use the same wave loop, and I do my drums totally different than how you do your drums, and the outcome of the beat could be substantially different, while the actual melody is the same. So just keep that in mind. It's all about sound choice and then how you structure those sounds. Even if you're just changing how you use those sounds. Like I use this clap all the time, but I just added an extra starting clap. You know what I mean? And that's it. So after the clap, you got in your snare. Nothing fancy there, nothing crazy. You know what all that is. Let's exit out of that. So after snare 2, we've got snare 3. And I use this all the time, but I did it slightly different than how I typically would. Same thing with snare 2. I don't typically add an open hat, but I added one in this beat just to sound a little bit different and change up the variation. I don't add this triangle, but I added this in here to make it sound a little bit different. I always do add the breath sound just simply because it's kind of like a signature sound of mine that I use. I don't know any other producers that consistently use this sound. I don't even know any other producers that have put a beat out that has gotten placements or major placements or anything with that particular sound in it. And then just your 808 pattern. And then I added a second 808 pattern, as you can tell. And then you don't have to really go too crazy with the 808s. If your melodies and everything are kind of crazy and melodic, you really don't have to go crazy on the 808s. If you have very simple melodies and whatnot, you might want to try to go a little harder on the 808s. Like it has to be a give and take in that type of situation. You can have crazy melodies and have crazy 808 with it, but to me personally, I think that begins to get a little chaotic and makes it harder for the artist to rap on, because like the simpler the beat, while still sounding very advanced, they're always going to be the better beats, just because it leaves space for the rapper to actually rap. Like most of your beats should sound incomplete, and I've said this before. And if it sounds a little incomplete, but still sounds like, somebody can rap this. This is hard, but it just sounds like it's missing a little something. That one thing that is missing should be the artist's voice. Like, you shouldn't sit there and feel like this beat's completely good, we're good to go, like it doesn't need a single thing more. Like, you always want to have that feeling of like, I could add something else in here, because that means that something else is probably the voice of the rapper on there. But when you start filling in those gaps, it does make it harder for the rapper to record. And I'm telling you, from as being a producer for many years, an audio engineer and recording people, it makes it a lot harder for people to do that. All those 808 rolls and crazy snare rolls, those are all cool. The crazy melodies and everything, that's cool and everything. But if you want to be a successful producer, don't try to impress other producers with your production. Make beats that people can rap on. That's the end goal. The end goal is a song, not to impress the next producer listening to the beat and like, oh man, this beat's crazy. That's not exactly the goal. Now, you want to make some crazy hard beats, but your goal should always be, let's try to make a song out of this beat. So all your beats should be geared towards using the thought process of, there's going to be an artist on here one day rapping on this. I need to leave space for them so that they can actually, so people can hear the lyrics and not be distracted by all the crazy stuff going on in the beat. And two, so when the artist is listening while he's rapping to it and trying to make a song, he's not distracted with, dang, that the beat had a weird beat drop. It stopped right here, or he added a crazy snare while I'm in the middle of trying to finish this bar, and it kind of messes me up because I keep hearing the snare rolls and whatnot. Whatever the case is, always try to keep it more geared towards simplicity than not. So with all that being said, if you missed the last week's video of the advanced tutorial or the advanced cookup, this go back and check that out. I'll probably drop like a link or video up here somewhere in the description or on the video itself. And yeah, that's it. But let's go ahead and kind of put all this together and let you hear what it all sounds like if you missed it last week. And this is what all that stuff kind of put together sounds like.
This a Milan beat. Capricorn.
Guys, and that's it. That's all we got. That's how you make an advanced melodic beat. The beat sounds a lot more advanced than what it actually is. All the instruments are relatively simple, but I just did slightly different things with the instruments. I switched up how I did things a little bit. I added other instruments that I typically don't add, and then in combination of making some pretty ambient, weird melodic melodies, you got a pretty solid melodic advanced beat. And let me know who you guys think you hear on this. When I made this beat, I couldn't figure out who I thought would sound good on this. Just give me kind of what you guys think. I think maybe like a Pradabagshawty maybe, or shoot, I got a lot of people that said somebody like a Gunna or a Young Thug would sound good on this, but I couldn't put a name to this one in particular. So let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Like this video, share it, subscribe, all that good stuff. Watch my other videos. Just so the algorithm begins to work towards my favor, and the YouTube gods start blessing me. So hopefully you guys are getting a lot of good information out of my tutorials, and you guys are enjoying it. I'm soon be changing up the structure of how I do things a little bit. I think I'm going to make a separate page for strictly putting the beats on that I'm making, and just have this page strictly dedicated to just teaching and educating. That way it's not really co-mingling and mixing. So be on the lookout for some different changes in the future here in the near future. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. I hope you guys enjoy your weekend. I won't hold you any longer, and we'll be back next week. Follow me on all my social media, Milan Makes Beats. If I got it, you'll find me. If I don't, you won't. And that's really about it, guys. We'll be back next week with another tutorial, and I'm out. Peace.